This is Naghmeh Shirkhan. Thank you so much for listening to So Booking Cool.
Welcome to So Booking Cool. I'm Jewel B, and today's guest just won Best Film Director at the Chelsea Film Festival for her groundbreaking film, Maki. She is Naghmeh Shirkhan. Naghmeh, thank you so much for talking to So Booking Cool. This is truly exciting to have you on. How are you doing? And of course, Naghmeh, and how was the Chelsea Film Festival?
I'm doing really well. It was fantastic. It was, we screened on Friday night to a sold out audience, standing room only. And then we had another screening on Saturday night, and Sunday night we got the awards. And so it was back-to-back excitement, a lot of fun. It was a great, really good festival. Very happy about it.
That is fantastic. What do you think it is about Maki that has resonated with people?
What I think what's resonated is at this moment possibly because it centers on the story of a young woman who is trying to find her way and who is being manipulated by people who are more powerful than she is. And I think the story might resonate for that reason, because we're talking about women's issues or people who are beholden to others with more power. So that's really in the zeitgeist right now. Although it's always been at top of my mind because as a woman working in this industry, I feel like I have first-hand knowledge, not just working in the industry, but just in general. I think women can be put in these situations where they have to fend for themselves and figure things out for themselves. And the younger you are, the more fraught it can be.
It sounds extremely timely.
Yeah.
Right? It certainly does. What was your creative approach to creating Maki?
I spent a number of years working on the screenplay and trying to find financing and working with a Japanese co-production company. And I traveled back and forth to Japan over the course of those. It's been 7 years, but before, it was like 5 years before production. So I was doing a lot of research, going to hostess clubs, talking to the girls, talking to women who had worked at these places, getting a sense for the vibe, and wanting to, if I was going to proceed with this story, to create something that felt authentic, even though I'm not Japanese, and create something that felt authentic, but at the same time it was kind of different and new. And setting is very important in filmmaking. It's the character, especially in the types of films that I make. And this setting in particular was one that really I thought was perfect for narrative, to set a story. I hadn't seen anything with this kind of a background set in New York City. So, and it was also very important to have a foreign language component to it. I think having grown up speaking different languages, being exposed to different cultures, different countries, I think, you know, we all feel more comfortable when we're speaking in our native language, and I wanted to maintain that in this film, even though it was really for a Western audience. I thought it would be a lot more true to what happens when you're in a bubble like that. You speak your language, you still adhere to your cultural norms. So the process was 5 years of working on the script after I'd done the research, and then securing the financing, doing the casting. I was very fortunate to find Mieko Harada through her casting agent in Tokyo, and she's a renowned actress in Japan. And she plays the role of the mama-san, Mika. And after that, it was just, because she had signed on to the project, it was very much easier for me to find other actors and other non-actors even who were interested in being a part of the project, because she was going to be acting in it. So it was like things just sort of came together, especially after she agreed to be a part of the project. And we shot it in 2016, and it took about 2 years of post-production. It was very, technically it was a lot more, there's a lot more to this film than my first film, and I spent a great deal of time working on it in post.
What did you learn from making The Neighbor, which was your first film, that you applied to creating your second film, Maki?
I learned that you can do a lot with a small budget if you have people working on the project who really believe in what you're trying to do. I think I also learned a lot about my own abilities as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, and began to trust really my vision, like what I was trying to do, how I was trying to do it, the kinds of shots that I was more interested in the kind of imagery that I was more interested in creating. So, and also because I'm an editor, I was pretty economical. I could envision what I wanted in a way and shoot just what I felt I needed. A lot of directors will shoot more. I tend to shoot just what I need in order to be able to maintain energy and keep people interested, because filmmaking is a very time-sensitive thing, and you're dealing a lot with people, just their time, their energy, and I feel like you can't push it. You gotta, especially on these low-budget films, where compensation is it's what you can afford to give them and not more than that, and so they're doing it with passion and love, and you have to really make it happen with the least amount of resources. I think that's what I learned from The Neighbor, that I was able to do something like this on a low budget.
Wow. So what led to you becoming a filmmaker, Naghmeh?
It's been a really long road. I've always wanted to be a filmmaker ever since I was in high school. I remember I was working in a video store back in Boston, and I worked there throughout high school and college, and I watched films all the time. And then I went to film school, and I was at BU studying film and screenwriting and production. And when I graduated, I came to New York and started working in first advertising and the production side, and then editing. So I knew what I wanted to do. I just had to figure out a way to get there without knowing many people in the industry. I didn't know anybody. And I knew I didn't want to be in California. I wanted to make films my way, and I wanted to do it independently. And I knew that New York had a community of independent filmmakers. So I thought, even if those filmmakers have gone on to bigger, better things and are now making Hollywood-style films, New York City still has that vibe. So let's see if I can figure out a way to make these stories come to life. And that's what I've been doing for the last, I'd say 15 to 20 years.
Wow.
A long process.
So you mentioned that you knew what you wanted to do, but you didn't know 100% like how to go about it, or you didn't know people in the industry. So
Right.
So I feel like that's so common for people, like depending on what they want to get into. What is your advice for anyone who is in that situation? What were the steps that you took to making that happen?
I think you have to be really, you have to educate yourself. We're living at a great time with the internet. Can really provide us with a ton of information. Sometimes it's overload. When I was graduating school, we didn't have those resources. So you really have to go pound the pavement, knock on people's doors, meet them in person, and it was a lengthy process. But now you can research online. You can find paths to what you want to do. You can upload, your work onto YouTube or in platforms online. It gives you exposure. I think you just have to really educate yourself, know what you want to do, and research and see if you have role models. How did they get to where they are now? Different for each person, but I think from what I was able to glean from it. People have a vision and they are committed to it and dedicated, and every day they just chip away at it. And I think if you can do that, then you will be able to realize whatever goal it is you want. You have to persevere.
Yeah, absolutely. So how manageable do you think it is for someone to, especially if they're just starting out and they want to do a film and they might want to use like their phone? Like, is that
Right.
a good approach?
I learned filmmaking on film. And then the cameras kept changing and technology got more democratic, and a lot more people were able to. I think I would want, if I was going to do this now, I would still want to learn the basics of film with the equipment that prior filmmakers had used.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my preference. You learn on that, and then you can move to whatever camera, whatever technique you want. But if you've got to have the basics of framing, understanding the technical aspects, understanding what a camera can and can't do, and have some exposure to that, I think that makes you a better filmmaker ultimately.
Got it. So what is something that you do want people to take away from your work in general?
The beauty of cinema, the beauty of being able to realize some vision. I think the moving image is a very powerful medium, and it should be. I personally think it should be revered. I think it's a very powerful and effective tool in telling stories and sharing ideas and making your imagination come to life. So I would hope that people would watch it and understand there's a real passion that goes into making these films, and I think a real hopefully an understanding of the craft. If that makes sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. It definitely does. Now, also with the Chelsea Film Festival, you were the only woman director who was
with a feature length,
feature length film. Okay,
fiction.
Yeah. So that to me that makes your win like even more amazing. Yeah.
I know. It was really quite surprising. But I think it's in my mind it sort of makes sense because it's been such a long road for me, and I have kept at it. And filmmaking is not, to me. It should not matter whether you're male or female. The work should stand on its own, and it should have something compelling about it. I think a lot of stories that have female protagonists, sometimes when I watch them, I feel they're not telling my story. So as a woman filmmaker, I think I can bring some voice to those stories. And that's important to me because we are half the population. We fill the auditoriums and the screening spaces, and we're the ones watching the series television, and therefore there should be equal amount of female filmmakers and people in the industry, so that those stories get told, and they get told in an authentic way, rather than it being, and so many stories about women tend to there's a lot of brutality against women, can I say, and that bothers me, and I think cinema is so powerful, and why should we show brutality against women? Why can't we show women finding their way, finding their voice, and showing them as strong individuals who are able to determine what paths they want to take? Men and women, I think, those are powerful stories, and I'd like to move away from, the violence, the gore, the death, the brutality, and tell stories in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm more old-fashioned in that way.
It makes perfect sense. What do you think can be done for more women to become filmmakers?
I think there has to be more funding, resources. In Europe, there are funds specifically for narratives and for art films, and I don't see any of that in the United States. It's all private financing. People go out and find money, or they use their own money, or they take out loans. Not a sustainable way to make films. And we need to have more support financially to be able to do this.
And you shot Maki in 18 days. What was that like?
Yes. It was very fast-paced. It was like a marathon, but I was very focused. So even now thinking back, it didn't feel so rushed because I feel like I'd spent so much time preparing, and I had a very good team of people around me. And one of my producers from Japan, Shohei Botarian, was really instrumental in creating, the kind of calm that I felt I needed on set. The people were just great. And so I think the focus helped, but it was a marathon. We were nonstop for 30 days and 18 days shooting straight, and I was working round the clock.
Because I also am interested in knowing about the casting side. How do you know who to go with, especially if it might seem like the competition is so fierce? Is that a hard decision?
It can be, because you sort of feel sometimes under the gun to find a person and just get the film made. But I didn't want to do that because I knew, I guess from having made one film already, that it's really important who you have in those roles. And so I waited, and I looked, and I didn't settle for the first person that came my way. I think things do happen for a reason, and in the moment there might be, disappointments because you're not finding that perfect person. But I think it just gives you time to really understand the story and the character and envision what you want. And you get, day by day, you will get closer if you just hone that. And I think the time that I spent doing that paid off in the end, because I think I found really the three perfect people for those roles. Maki, Tommy, and Mika-san. And everybody else they just fit into place like pieces of a puzzle. It just, when you had the dominant pieces in, everything else just fell into place.
Have you started your next project?
Yes, I've been writing a lot and thinking about what I'd like to do next. And there's a few different threads, and I just have to really sit down and start putting it together and thinking, where would I like to shoot next? Because that's also a very important aspect of filmmaking for me, is location. I think that's it inspires a lot of ideas and triggers imagination for me. I love traveling, and I think location is really important. Maybe it's the most important thing.
Do you ever need permission, like when you find the ideal location?
Permission in what sense?
Like, let's say, can someone just film at any location that they desire? Like, it could be at a park, or just the fact that you want to shoot in that city. Okay.
No, if it's a private space, you would have to have permission from the owner, and you would have to work out the proper paperwork for it and negotiate with them. If it's a public space in the city, for instance, you need permits, and you may not get exactly what you want, but with a good location scout, you can find a second, third choice. So locations are tough for independent films. We're not working on, sound stages. We're working in people's real houses and apartments and real streets that are not blocked off usually. So it can be kind of it's a whole other beast. So you do have to have permission. If you find, but a lot of people when they see that you're working towards something and you're very serious and you know what you're doing, they're very generous with what they will share with you for a project. So I was very lucky in that sense as well. A lot of people came through, friends and other colleagues, and it just sort of came together. But you definitely need to have permission.
So are there any books that have inspired you either just personally in life or certainly in your career, and would you ever write a book?
Books have always influenced me. Reading is a passion, and I read just about everything and have always done so. So books, stories, historical texts, everything. So yes, they do help tremendously. And I think that novels really help me a lot. They help me understand the structure of story and, you know, how you can tell a story, what the arc is. And then short stories help because short stories are great for film. Long works don't really translate that well into film, 90 minutes, but short stories can very well. So that's something that I also love to read. But I also love poetry, and I think poetry is also a really big influence in my kind of filmmaking. And would I ever write a book? Sure, why not? if I found the time. But I like to write as well. So I don't know if anybody would be interested in reading what I have to write, but
of
I
course.
do enjoy writing.
Of course, Naghmeh, of course. I mean, you're like opening doors for a whole bunch of girls and women right now, you know, as we speak. And you've already been doing that anyway. I know I can't keep you too long, but I would love to know your thoughts on mentorship. Yeah, mentorship.
I think mentoring is really important. I think I've had mentors who have really impacted you know, my life. One of them is a wonderful filmmaker by the name of Amir Naderi, and he's an Iranian filmmaker. And he's taken me under his wing and really believes in what I was trying to do, and given me amazing guidance. And he happens to be a man, so men help women all the time. And I think we have to really embrace what the older generation have to teach us, because without the groundwork that they have laid for us artistically, we would not know where to start. So I think mentorship is hugely important. I have two sons, and I think I try to mentor them and their friends, you know, if they're interested. And I think mentoring is essential. I think without it, you can't pass on knowledge and experience, and that really helps a filmmaker or a writer get better at what they want to do. And you pass on gifts, and I think it's a wonderful thing. So I totally believe in mentoring.
Naghmeh Shirkhan, everyone. Naghmeh, it's been such a pleasure to have you talk to So Booking Cool, and I would love for you to talk to us again in the future.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you for all your great questions.
Oh, no problem. You have, your answers are wonderful and inspiring. How can people keep up with you and your work?
I think in Instagram, probably. I just joined Instagram for Maki, and I think that's a great platform. And I will try my best to be a bit more forward-thinking. And with my abilities on social media, I tend to be more of a hermit. But, yeah, I think that's the way to do it, to keep up. And my handle is Maki Film.
Hey.
So that's Instagram.
Yes. Okay, because I was going to say, what is your handle? And Naghmeh, do you have any final thoughts as well? That I always welcome my guests to share any final thoughts they might have, anything else that they'd like to add.
I think stay humble, stay true to what you want to do, keep working hard, and don't give up. Don't give up, and when you get to wherever you're going, turn back and help whoever needs it or whoever you feel is going to benefit most. So it's one long, passageway, and we have to move forward and at the same time give a hand to those coming up behind us.
That is beautifully said. Thank you to all the listeners, and until next time, So Booking Cool.